Trustees for Monday, January 27th to order. First, we'll have a roll call. Trustee Mays.
Here.
Trustee Hanson.
Here.
Trustee Corbett.
Are you getting old?
Trustee Zito.
Present.
And Trustee Welch present. Okay. At this point, we will have the flag salute. Will you please stand?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Okay. First, we'll have matters from the public. And when you come forward, please state your name. We will have the CSEA chapter president coming forward. Is she here? Anybody from CSEA? Okay. 2.2 ETA.
Good evening. I guess I should turn this on. As a member of the Superintendent Consolidation Committee.
Excuse me, please state your name first.
Yes, ma'am. Tammy Compton, teacher in Evergreen District. I'd like to take a bit of time tonight to share with you the process that was used in which we made our final recommendations. It was an extremely lengthy process that was not taken lightly by anyone on the committee. During our first meeting, Mr. Barbera and Dr. Flores discussed what the expectations were of the committee. We set up our norms, discussed our roles, and the resources that we were given, or would be given, along with a timeline for the task. In the weeks that followed, we heard from the demographer, reviewed the district's budget, and learned about the capacity and conditions of each school facility. We were told from the start that our middle schools were not being considered at this time, along with Holly Oak, as it was going to host our first dual immersion school. With that said, we were then told to consider all the remaining 14 schools for potential closure and consolidation, considering the positive and negative factors and variables such as location, capacity, programs, community impact, and so on. Decision Institute enrollment impact specialists were tasked with reviewing our district and putting together the demographer's report. In their findings, it was reported that the district's enrollment had diminished by approximately 9% over the past 4 years, and within the past 2 years alone, we had lost over 1,000 students. In addition, they projected an additional loss of over 1,600 students by 2024, thus showing that keeping all 18 schools open is not financially responsible. The district also provided a budget presentation that showed all the previous cuts that had been made, and we were shown why at this time it is necessary to consolidate schools. We were able to ask many clarifying questions, and believe me, there were many. In addition, we had an opportunity to discuss school upkeep, improvements, and necessary repairs needed to maintain each campus. It was explained how some things around the district were being completed using bond money, and that money had specific requirements regarding how it must be used. The bond money cannot be used to help solve our budget deficit. During each presentation, we were given many opportunities to ask additional questions, after which the committee decided upon criteria to consider while selecting first 8 schools, then 6, then the final 2. The criteria asked us to consider each school's current and projected enrollment, which we received in the demographer's report, proximity to neighborhood schools, ability to accommodate additional students, busing needs, and safety. It was important to each of us that we find the best solution for a very difficult situation. After narrowing it down to 8 schools, the demographer once again was asked to look at different scenarios for each school. The demographer's report considered a school's current enrollment, space available, and maximum capacity. For each school, 2 scenarios were shown and capacity considerations and concerns were given. We didn't want to overload any of our schools, filling them to maximum capacity, nor did we want to scatter any single school throughout the district by 6 schools split. Believe me when I say this was not an easy task. However, after many discussions, looking back over reports, and again asking many clarifying questions, we made our final decision. Our final night went extremely long, and as each of us was able to share our pros and cons for each of the 6 final schools being considered, and final questions were asked. In the end, as first one and then the second school was selected, we were again asked if everyone was in agreement with the choices that were made, and given the opportunity to share any additional thoughts or concerns. In the end, we all came to the same conclusion, and the final 2 schools were recommended to Dr. Flores. Now, on a personal note, usually when you work this hard on a task, you walk away with a feeling of satisfaction for the accomplishment and the pride in what you were able to do. However, for this task, that definitely wasn't the feeling for many of us once the task was completed. This was an extremely difficult task for everyone involved and completed with a very heavy heart. We all knew we were going to be affecting many members of our Evergreen family, and in the end, there was no favoritism towards any school. There was no one trying to manipulate or coerce us into selecting one school over another, and no one made a choice out of spite. Recommendations were given, facts were presented, and from that, the final schools were decided upon. I believe with all of my heart that each person on this committee was given the opportunity to share their thoughts and voice their concerns. Our questions were answered, and we were able to complete the task given to us regardless of how difficult it was to complete. It was a task that had to be done, and we did it respectfully and as fairly as we possibly could.
Thank you for your comments. At this time, we will have comments from the public.
Do we have?
Any comments from the public? Okay, so seeing that there are none, we're going to move on to, did you fill out?
No, that's.
If you have any forms and you would like to address the Board of Trustees on this matter, we have the forms here. Right now I have some here. ¿Alguien más desea hablar a la mesa directiva?
Okay, and if you just want to make comments, in general comments, you can come up now and you will be signing a form for 2.3. If you want to make comments on item 3.1, school consolidation, you can only speak to school consolidation on 3.1. If you have any other comments, you're welcome to come up and fill out a card at this time, 2.3. Okay, all 3.1. Okay. We do have a general comment.
2.3 is general, 3.1 specific.
Okay, we do have a general comment from Peter Goldsmith. Thank you.
I hate going first. This is on consolidation. That's why I'm here.
And that's 3.1. So we'll move that comment over to 3. If it's specific to 3 point, if it's specific to consolidation.
Okay, let me explain this again. Okay,
Then we'll just move your.
I'm gonna put 3.1 on your paper and you will be the first for 3.1, okay? Okay, thank you.
So I'm a local resident.
Okay, so we're gonna call you back when we get to 3.1. We're still on 2.3. We're confused, not you. Okay, before I move further, is there anyone that has a general comment that is item 2.3? If you wish to speak to school consolidation only, that's agenda item 3.1. Okay, we're all good. Okay, at this point, I'd like to open the public hearing.
Okay.
Now, Mr. Goldsmith, you may approach. It's all recorded, so we have to make sure that it's
I feel like I'm in elementary school again.
So do I.
So I'm a local resident. I did in the Dudville School, and two of my three kids went to that school. And they graduated out and they went to Sheboygan, where they were bused. So I think the committee did a wonderful report, but I think maybe the guidelines are misguided. Bottom line for me is that bigger is not better for a K-6 school. The smaller the school, the more local the school, the more community the school is, the better it is for the kids. We're not building microprocessors or packaging sausages. The bigger is better. Smaller is better for this age group. And San Jose is a melange, a mixture of many different communities. And Dudville has their own little community. We're sandwiched in there by good roads. And community is a big deal, especially for this age group. And also for the parents and for the people who live there. So the whole premise for the study is somewhat misguided in that they're looking for economies. We have to balance our budget, sure, but there should be a way to balance the budget so that everybody wins. The way you're looking at this about the choices, which schools do we close, or that we have to close some schools, is not the right concept. Because you're sacrificing one community for another community. That's crazy. They're all good communities and they all deserve support. And you guys, if you go with this recommendation, I'm sorry, but you're sacrificing two communities for the sake of something else. And that something else is not a better education for the kids. And it's not a better education, or it's not a better result for the community. So the community will suffer for this. And I think there are other choices. One thing which I suggested several times, in the case of Dudville, which I know, is that we increased the size of Dudville about 15 or 20 years ago by adding trailers, temporary trailers. And by their nature, because of the population boom at that time. So now that the population boom is not there, you can downsize that school by removing the trailers, which probably have a higher maintenance cost than your more permanent buildings. If they're aged out, you don't fix them up. You get rid of them. And part of the cost data that I saw on Dudville has some pretty high maintenance costs and renovation costs. So you don't put money into a trailer classroom that's aged out. You get rid of it because you don't need it. You can reduce your costs and you can downsize the school to the population that is there. And that's for more of a win-win situation rather than a tough decision that you guys have to make. This shouldn't be a tough decision. It should be a win situation. And there's a way to do that by balancing your budget. But you don't sacrifice one community for another. Okay, a phrase we had is the Pledge of Allegiance, and we said, liberty and justice for all. Well, if you close these two schools, that's not fair to these communities. You can support the new rich communities up on the hill. That's wonderful for them, but it's not wonderful for the people who live down in the other neighborhoods that need your support and that are going to suffer for this. It's just a bad deal. So that's my pitch for not closing the schools, but coming up with another solution. And if it takes time, take the time and make the right decision. We've been at this for 4, 5, 6 years, a long time. But if you don't make a good decision, it's because it's taken a long time, because we're not there. The committee, in spite of their good work, I don't think they came up with a good result.
Suzanne Lee.
Good evening, Suzanne Lima, ETA Vice President.
Suzanne, I'm sorry, I just wanted to state that everybody has 3 minutes so that we can be fair, didn't say that before, but I'm going to say it now. Thank you.
Vice President and Bargaining Chair for ETA. I'm wondering if there were ever any truer words spoken than these. Easier said than done. By all accounts, consolidation is needed to maintain the fiscal health of our district. It's needed to make sure all our children are able to have the optimal learning opportunities that they deserve. Class size, student programs, and highly qualified staff are always threatened when a district is not running efficiently. But that's not to say that recognizing the need to consolidate and then deciding which schools to close are equally difficult. I'm grateful that the district is making an enormous effort to hear parents, community members, and teachers. I am encouraged to hear the superintendent say, though the decision about which schools has been made, the details are still meticulously being looked at. And even more importantly, that those details are not black and white, cut or dry, and may need specific tweaks depending on individual families or teachers' needs. Working at a school for years, and for many teachers and staff decades, turns you into a family that does all it can for its students and community, a family that leans on each other through good times and more so in bad. So when staff hear that it's their school that is being consolidated, it's hard for them not to feel like your family is breaking up. This is a painful process. This is why I'm equally grateful that this administration will be working with the ETA negotiating team on February 5th to see how we can make it at least a little less painful. How can we make sure the uniqueness of an entire school transferring has considerations that may not have been needed in the past? I've met briefly with many teachers from both Laurelwood and Dove Hill on behalf of ETA to gather their input, to try to assess their needs, and offer them support in any way. We will do our best to work together in order to have the smoothest transition possible. We will do our best in order to work together to begin rebuilding families at the sites that are lucky enough to be welcoming in students and teachers from those schools. Thank you.
Marlene Chan.
Hi, my name is Mylin. I'm a parent at Laurelwood. I'm going to go straight to the point. We've been on the chopping block for a long time now. Year after year, you've hammered it into our community that we have a potential for closure. This year, you guys finally did it. Announced it formally to the kids, got the kids, parents, and teachers all worked up. Last Thursday was not a happy sight. I don't think I could ever see my kids upset again. For 5 days, including the 20 minutes ago, my child was still asking why we're closing. He asked me to help find money for the school, and helpless, I just pat him on the head and left. The biggest concern that my kids have is their friends and teachers. My ask if you could keep them together. Right now, you have them split amongst 3 schools. Every family deserves to go to their school of choice. Second, I asked if you find a good place for our teachers. Mrs. Gaffney was a new hire, and she's an amazing teacher. It would be a shame if you lose her. I really don't want to be here again in 5 or 10 years. I do not see how closing Laurelwood is going to help you resolve the areas that your demographer pointed out that will have major decline. If you know now that you're going to have issues in those areas, why not solve for it? If my school has to be the one that has to be sacrificed, then I ask that you guys do the right thing. Don't put the money in savings into raises, promotions, or making new additions to your upper management. You need to bring back special program or bring in new special programs and do something to attract and retain kids. Lastly, I live across the street, and as an owner, I am concerned that with what you're going to do across the street. I hope by the end of the year, you will have a plan for the land. Leaving it vacant may allow transients to come up from the creek, just so that everyone knows there are people living in the creek behind our school. Once in a while, you're going to find a blanket in the back of the school. A few of you may remember, a few years ago, there was a special interview process for a special board seat. Along with about 20 other people, we all interviewed for that seat. And I remembered at the interview, I mentioned that if I do not like what I see, I will be back. So I guess this year, I will be announcing that I will be running for the next board election. Thank you.
Judy Tom.
Hi, my name is Judy Tom. Tong, and I am the current PTA president of Lowerwood Elementary School. I guess there's a lot of things, a lot of choice words we can probably say about this whole situation, right? We'll stay on the more positive, let's move forward, that kind of momentum. But what I do want you guys to understand is, I want you guys to understand what you guys are losing off of Lowerwood, okay? You guys are basically losing 33 years of Lowerwood's Harvest Festival that we've managed to maintain. I mean, that's the longest running Harvest Festival in all of Evergreen. Okay, you guys, I mean, each and every one of you, we've always put an invitation for you guys to come in and join us in these events. For a very small school, that's pretty miraculous, don't you think? Very miraculous for a small school like us to do. No more Lunar Festival, our Earth Day cleanup days that we invite each and every one of you board members to attend. So you know personally, from a very personal standpoint, as to what kind of school Laurelwood is. And that's what you're losing off of community. And isn't that really what you want a community school to be, though? I mean, isn't that really what you want every community school to strive for, right? To have the sense of ability to connect with our parents and the students, and to be able to join in with these sort of activities. And that's what you're losing, right? It's just not another data point, on some spectrum or whatnot to consolidate and to fix some sort of financial. It's not gonna, it's really not going to, I can tell you right now, it's probably really not going to fix what you guys are trying to fix right now. Because you guys really don't have a long-term plan right now. I don't see the long-term plan, right? Next year alone, you guys are already considering another school to close, right? Enrollment is a cyclical pattern. You're going to have years where the enrollments come back up again, and what are you going to do at that point? What are you going to do at that point? If you're already closing 3 schools, what are you going to do when we have an increase of enrollment? Right? You're going to start packing the schools now, and you say that, Matsumoto has 400. Because it's going to go up to 700 students. Now, you're closing the school to basically say that you want to enrich the ability for these other schools, the surviving schools, to have a better education. How much better of an education will it be when now you have 700 students enrolled to the maximum capacity? You're really not, right? You're going to come into a situation where it was literally 25 years ago. And the reason why I know that this is a
You could wrap up your last sentence.
Yeah, I'm on my last comment. And the reason why I know that you guys will have the same situation is because I am a child of the Evergreen School District. I was here at K.R. Smith. I was here, Quimby is my junior high. Silver Creek was my high school. I was here when you guys had an uptake and you guys didn't have enough school. So now you guys are taken away. So I just want you guys to consider that.
Thank you very much. Anna Cruz.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Anna Cruz, and I'm one of the parents at Duffield. And I just want to get straight to the point. I wanted to present a different option. My son goes to Duffield, and this has become my community. So one of the things that I wanted to propose, I'm not saying you might take it, but I have got the quick stats of every school in the district. So I was looking at the numbers, and in here, different websites says that, let's say, Matsumoto, I don't know if this is true, but it's according to this. You guys have 740 students. JFS has 706. So the schools on the upper top part of the district have quite a few students. There is a big number of students, but yet some of the schools like us don't have that much students. Instead of closing the school, why don't we try to find a solution that doesn't involve closing the school which could be transferring some of the students from this kind of schools. You know, and I also think that when it comes to academics, the rating is going to go up. Because if you look at, you know, the math efficiency at JFS is 79%. Reading efficiency is 83%. But if you looked at Montgomery, it's, math efficiency is 23%. So bringing the students from, you know, from one school to the other and diversifying the students will be, to me, that would be a great option. And I looked into every student number, every classroom number, every test that you can think of the website. So please consider us, and we love the community, and I know when you were elected, you know, I really feel that, you know, it is going to be a new opportunity for parents. And I really believe in our district, and I love this district. And, you know, I want us to keep our school and really consider this, transferring students to our site instead of closing. And it, like I said, it will benefit the students. The ratio, you know, everything will be a better place for us instead of consolidating school.
Thank you. Yeah. Sabina? Sorry if I mispronounced.
It's okay, Sunita. I got a quick question. This meeting over here, is that to decide already what you guys are going to inform us of what you guys are going to do on as far as the schools, or I'm kind of a little bit confused because I've been trying to get information on when these meetings are coming about, and my neighbor came running this weekend and he said, you know, they're going to have a meeting, and that's how we find out that you guys have a meeting. As you can see, there's not that many parents. Otherwise, I'm going to go on through my neighborhood and ask everybody to come in, for them to express again the need for what we need at school. I'm talking over here about Dublin. I live over here in the same area for 40 years. I've seen the ups and downs of the school, and I think it's very unfair for you guys to come and tell us, you know, we're going to close the school when we have very good teachers, very good community, very low vandalism and crime in all of these areas, you know. And I think it bothers me that the bonds that I brought this thing up, I think, when you guys first started with this thing about trying to close the schools. And it bothers me as a homeowner that the bonds that they were supposed to be invested on the schools, they never got invested on downhill. Most of the schools, they got improvements. I never saw improvements from downhill. I knew that there were some plans to do the improvements. I would like to know, on all of these reports that I see, I don't see no clear picture of, you know, you guys talk about somebody that went and did this, I remember when you guys asked for people to volunteer to go try to do this, what is it? The group that was going to, whether it was parents, teachers, to volunteer to do this study. Okay, that was, what was it, 2015? Something like that, 2016, 2017. We never heard anything from them. We heard a little here and there, but I haven't seen reports. I haven't seen reports with the money from my taxes. Where is the bond? Where is the bond money? Where is the improvements that they have done in that here? I know what the improvements are in JJ Montgomery. I know the improvements of other schools. And in schools that have people that have money, of course, they don't need it because people donate money to the schools. But I would like to see what is going to happen with that money of those bonds. Because those bonds were supposed to be spent in the school, not in improvements or going to another school. And I would like to see where is that going to be. The other thing is, that's a taxpayer, okay? As a parent, my children were there. Most of the children were in my neighborhood. Really, I know a lot of people because I know people from the high school, the middle school, and I always volunteer on those type of things. They cannot, I don't have no children that they're going to W, by the way. But I think it's very important to have a middle school in a small community. And you guys are talking about, you know, right now it's very low, not a lot of kids coming in, okay? But what's going to happen a couple of years from now, when we have another kids coming in? And
Okay,
the money
Mr.
that,
Rita,
hang on a second.
yeah, I need to just say.
Yeah, just
that
give me one
you
second.
Okay.
The money that is going to be spent on busing, the danger of taking the children to those places, and it's a lot of money that we're talking about in there. I would like to know where it's coming from. The most important thing is I would like to see these reports and who's making these final decisions. Because I would like to see people in here. When you guys have these meetings, I would like to see people that live in my community be aware that you guys have a meeting. I think the next meeting is going to be the decision making. Huh? When is the decision going to be done? I'm asking you a question. I'm sorry.
Okay, so at this point, it's just public comment, so I'm gonna have to let the superintendent respond to your.
I will provide information on the bill. You're asking about bond projects, and I can provide that to you. I have your contact information here, so thank you.
But it's not just for me. I would like to see everybody in my area. Because we would like to see, there is a lot of homeowners in my area. There's hardly anybody renting. And as a person that owns a property, I would like to know where my money
We
went.
will provide all that information on the school's website, so that any parent, any family member who wants to inquire, who wants to look at the bond projects that have taken place at your school in particular, could access that information.
Okay, and then when you guys have these meetings for decision making, how many more meetings do we have before people can come and talk to you? The parents I'm talking about.
Next Monday.
There is one more hearing like this, that's for next Monday, and the board will take action on the 13th of February.
So that the next board meeting on Monday is the only time that the parents can come and ask you or beg you for you guys not closing the school. Because this is the process that has been done for 2015. People begging you to have our school open. It's such a small school, but I think there is enough students in there to support what we pay in taxes.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Mata. I really appreciate your comments, but to be fair, everyone has only 3 minutes. Thank you so much. Okay, that's all does anyone else want to come?
Do we have any more of these out there?
Anybody else want to address the board?
Or anyone who has not filled out a paper and you wish to speak, please do come forward.
You fill out the paper after you speak if you choose.
Okay, we're gonna close the public hearing at this time. Our future meetings are February 3rd, February 13th, and March 12th, April 9th, May 14th, and June 11th. So there's no report from closed session. Okay, so can I get a motion to adjourn? Okay, we're gonna let Mr. Zito make a quick clarification.
Just to be completely clear, the meeting on February 3rd, a week from today, is another meeting like this. If I'm not mistaken, it's at Shibuya Middle School. Please, I know the superintendent and the district has done as much as they can to communicate it. It's been in the Evergreen Times, it's been on the website, it's been communicated to parent emails as well. Please, get the word out. We want every parent who wants to say something to have that opportunity to say something. So there will be another meeting just like this, an open public hearing for parents in the community. Doesn't have to be just parents, homeowners, residents, anybody from the community to come and give us your input on school consolidation. And that will be next Monday, also 6 o'clock, right at Shibuya. The meeting on the 13th is the meeting where the board will have to take final information and make full consideration of the recommendation and vote at that time. So February 13th is that meeting where we make the decision.
Thank you, Mr. Zito. Do I have a motion for an adjournment? Do I have a second?
I'll second.
It has been moved and second that we adjourn. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, I see all ayes, so meeting adjourned.